You are watching Psychic Witch Talk, hosted by Christine Rossi and Diana Rachel, shot at the Mystic Dream in Walnut Creek, California. So, I'm Diana Rachel. I am the Friday Psychic Reader for the Mystic Dream, and this is Christine Rossi.
Oh, hi. I'm here on Mondays and Wednesdays here at Mystic Dream as well.
And if you'd like to book a reading with either of us, you can go online and make an appointment at themysticdream.com, or you can call in the shop. We are available to do readings in person or by phone. So we look forward to hearing from you. So welcome to the first recording of, I guess we're calling it the Psychic View. So
That works.
Place where the psychics from Mystic Dream get together as we can and talk about different aspects of what we do, different aspects of magic and how we do it and how we came to do it. So for our inaugural show, we are talking about how we came to work as psychics, since a lot of people really want to ask, and most of them are just too polite.
So how did you get started in this?
My friend's tarot cards bit me.
Oh my goodness. I started with, as far as being a psychic, I think we could all say that we started when we were very young. We just weren't aware that we were psychic. We just knew that we knew.
I just knew my imaginary friends didn't seem that imaginary and seemed to have very independent opinions.
Nice. I like that. Yeah. For me, I've always known, and people would say, well, how do you know? And I don't know. I just know. And I'd be right. And through the years and becoming an adult, I used to joke around and say, someday I'm going to hang a shingle out and I'm going to do this for real. And now I am.
Yeah. So for me, it was kind of all psychic and magical things were very suppressed in my family. My mother passionately believed in the devil.
Good for her.
In some
Congratulations.
ways, you know, her religion wasn't Jesus. It was, I'm afraid of the devil.
Oh,
that seems to be her interpretation.
That kind of covers a lot of.
I think so. Yeah. So, like, at this point, I'm still trying to figure out how the heck we had an actual original edition of Dungeons and Dragons in our house.
Oh, very nice.
I don't even know how that worked in her mind, but it became a problem where she would try to convince me that I wasn't seeing the things I was seeing, that I wasn't seeing ghosts, that I didn't see my dead grandmother pointing at where she'd literally hidden her inheritance. And
oh my goodness.
All kinds of crazy, crazy stuff where, you know, I was the youngest, so therefore what I saw could not possibly be valid. And there was this huge concern about craziness and how it made her look to the neighbors. And so it turned into this very suppressed thing. And then I got into college, and stressful events can trigger suppressed psychism, and college can be very stressful. And on top of it, there was some added psychological stuff with my family, so it got super triggered in the middle of a college dorm where everyone else's stuff is going off all at once. This was not good. So I started kind of desperately looking for an off button, and I thought I'd found it for a while because I delved deeper into Christianity, because one of my many plan A's had been to be a Christian pastor, which I am clergy. That is just not the section I was called to. I'm in a different department now. And so I ended up exploring Wicca and witchcraft and getting into these things because some of them worked, some of them didn't. And for what did work, it worked really well. So for a while, I'd managed to keep things off. And then in the summer between my freshman and sophomore year, there was a lot of family pressure about things they wanted me to do with my life that I didn't want to do. And in my attempts to find a way out, and it was all about money and safety, and in the meantime, my epically disastrous love life, which if your love life is not a disaster at 19, you're doing something wrong. I'm sorry. It's supposed to be a freaking mess. And so I had a friend who was from one of those old-time Hoosier Southern Baptist families where fortune telling was kind of something that went on in the background. And so we'd stay up late nights. He'd be reading with the regular player card deck, which is actually the original fortune telling deck. And he got bored with this and decided he wanted to move on to tarot. So he took me with him to the Barnes & Noble, which was the only place to hang out at the time where we were living. And he handed me the cards to go get something else, and there's literally a shock went up my arm. And it was a, hey, we're trying to get your attention, which I'm dense, so I managed to ignore for a while. But eventually I ended up giving in and buying my own set of major arcana, and I started reading, and after a while, I started having people go, oh, hey, you have the cards, so I'll pay you $2 or give you a can of beer if you read for me. So I actually ended up starting doing reading for beer money my sophomore year of college. And at first I felt really uncomfortable, but then like there's one guy I read for where I thought he was just such a doofus, just total idiot. But I sat down and read and realized, no, he's not an idiot. He's imitating his dad.
Very
And
nice.
so like narrowing it down actually got him to talk about his relationship with his dad, and it humanized him so much for me that I looked at it and went, I got to keep doing this. I'm starting to see people as real with this. So that's how I decided to stick with it.
Yeah, I had through, and it's always under stress, isn't it?
Yeah, always.
When I started my divorce back in 89 and 90, had 2 children, the divorce thing coming up. And needless to say, I was completely running around in circles and looking for answers. I mean, I had done a lot of spiritualism, looked down different avenues, read a lot of books, and a lot of things were making sense to me. And I went out and bought my first deck, and it was dead on. And then it was right on again. And then it was right on all the time. And I thought, this is really spooky. We need to put these away for a little while, because it was giving me the answers that I was asking for. And I started looking into different other ways of divination, which is another program. But I decided that reading cards for myself and for my friends was definitely a direct way of connecting with the divine and getting square answers just right now. This is the direction you're going in. No, you don't want to go down that road. Real simple stuff.
Sometimes I feel like there's like a gallery that's like watching a movie and yelling at the
Yes.
screen, and you're what's on the screen. And
Yes, yeah. I always hear the golf clap. I'm clairaudient, so I hear constant commentary, and I just heard, yes, you do. And when I'm talking to someone or helping out with someone, if I, nail it exactly the way they are telling me that's coming across, many times I hit that, golf clap in the background, and you feel like there's a gallery behind you or above
Yeah.
you.
I occasionally hear laughing when I think or say something especially sacrilegious.
Oh,
But so how did you come to work with angels?
back in the mid 90s, it was very popular, extremely popular, before Doreen Virtue, um, who is extremely popular now. A lot of people were having angelic meetings in their homes. And basically, it was casting a circle, calling in the 4 quarters, except they were calling in the archangels. And so I went through to someone's home because I thought it sounded fascinating. And I found that just connected with the angels, I felt so much better. It was literally an enlightening feeling where you felt like, oh, I lost 5 pounds. I should go every week and lose 5 pounds. And after going for a year, the lady that was running it was manifesting to move to Santa Rosa, and she did. And so her last meeting, she said that I'm going to have someone take over, because we were all, oh no, you're going. What are we going to do? Little lost lambs. And she came up behind me and put her hands on my shoulders and said, Archangel Michael told me that you're taking over. And I'm like,
Tag, you're it.
Yeah, no kidding. I was, are you sure you're talking to the right person? But I took it over for a short period of time. And what I ended up doing was kicking it up a notch and just bringing in the angels and letting them speak. You can call it channeling, aspecting. There's different ways of talking about it. But word spread after I took over, which was amazing. And it went as far as San Jose. I was living out in Antioch. And so people were like an hour away on a Wednesday night driving to my home for this angel meeting, angel gathering. And it was, people were seeking, they were looking to connect to some power, to their own angels, and angels are less frightening to the mass media. Um, they tend to think of them as like fluffy little bunny, but they're not. They're very powerful beings, and people were getting what they needed, and that was the bottom line. And so I did that for a while, but it was starting to take over my day-to-day life more and more and more. So I said, I can't do this right now. I've got children to raise and things to do and people to see and bills to pay. And so I turned it over to a friend and dropped out and continued on my own personal journey of discovering things and learning things and getting certificates. And when I came to the Mystic Dream, uh, it was like, tap, tap, tap. And I'm like, yeah. They said, hey, do you still want to do the angel gathering? And I said, yes, that would be great. They said, okay, why don't you do that? And we'll back you up on that. And everything just has been flowing since. So,
Oh, very cool.
yeah, no, it's thank you, thank you, thank you. It's effortless, which I'm really grateful for. Mystic Dream has opened up their doors and allowed me to have the back room. I don't have to pay anything, so I offer it as free to the people, and everybody comes and gets what they need, whatever that may be. It's just my job to create sacred space. That's easy for me to do.
That's a good gig.
Yeah, that's a good gig. Yeah, yeah, it's an easy sign up for me. I was like, yeah, thank you very much. So that's pretty much it.
Interesting. So, yeah, I'm a little too stubborn to work with angels or spirit guides too much yet. And I know you can hear comments, but
I'm saying nothing. I have nothing to say.
But I have non-voluntary second sight. I've been able to see ghosts and the dead since I was a child. And so for me, a lot of getting into witchcraft and psychic practices was finding the off switch. And so now it's more about, again, it's still very much about maintaining that off switch, because over the years, I dealt with divorce when I was very young. I've actually written a book about it titled Divorcing a Real Witch. And yes, I did get away with that title. And I've also ended up dealing with chronic illness. I was working for an international student office during 9/11. And what I ended up dealing with is that it was both my skills as someone who's an avid researcher and as a journalist and as a psychic and a reader that were needed the most in that job, because I was working with students that were from the countries that ended up at odds with the U.S. during the entire crisis. And so a lot of them actually value witches and value psychics and needed that little bit of extra something.
That's nice.
Yeah. And at the time I had like the bright red hair and, I was like this
I was thinking
American
of doing that,
psychic.
but I didn't want to take over the camera shot. So.
My wife dyed her hair red, so she just takes over the room now. It's gorgeous. Drives me a little nuts sometimes. So, but during that time period, because I was very much more loud and more obvious about what I am, and the person who put me in that job was hoping I'd get fired right away, because apparently I was the only American that lasted more than a year in that job ever.
Oh my goodness.
And it turned out that I was exactly the person they needed for that job because of all of the unique skills. But it also created a lot of stress. The job kind of ate my marriage, because that kind of happens. And coming out, I ended up with a rather nasty chronic illness that I've been dealing with for the last 16 years. So it's been floating in and out of crisis work or doing psychic work or side gigs or writing as my health allows. And since my wife and I have moved out to California, me kicking and screaming, because there's a lot of me kicking and screaming. Just because you're spiritual doesn't mean you're enlightened, and I don't pretend that I am. So, and in some ways, I think that helps me be more empathetic with my clients that are also in the kicking and screaming phases of their lives.
Yeah, I believe so. I'm right behind you on the kicking and the screaming. I wouldn't say that I do so much kicking, screaming. Oh yes, I've been known to call out my guides and the gods and goddesses on more than one occasion. I mean, are you kidding me? I'm screaming in the middle of the night. Come
Yeah,
down here and say that to my face.
yeah, my addresses tend to be punctuated with a lot of bleepable words.
Yes, yeah, which I suppose we could do, but then it would just eat up a lot of time. So.
Which somebody's going to rewind and enjoy, I'm sure, but maybe some other time.
So, did you always have people come and ask you for your opinion or your input before you became official?
All the time. Like the words I dreaded most from kindergarten on was Diana, you're smart.
And
And
then the question,
and the
or
question, and it would almost always be something existential, except for one particularly horrific one where they could not understand there's more than 100 points in an IQ test. That was a bad one. But it was usually something existential that it doesn't take intelligence or intellect, it takes some kind of soul connection or some kind of divine connection to have any kind of answer to.
yeah, I had through my the majority of my life, people always came to me for advice, and they could be a lot older than I was, which was very unnerving. When you're like 10 and someone adult is asking you for, what do you think, and it's like, really? Okay. But I would say that I got so used to people asking me for help that it was just second nature. And it got to the point where I wanted to get away from being asked all the time. It was like, come on, give me a break. And even if I was alone, I wasn't alone. So I vividly remember two separate incidents where I went to like a park one time to be alone, have lunch, be alone. And I'm sitting there and I'm talking to my guides about a problem I was dealing with. And I glance up and I see this gentleman on a bicycle coming across the grass. And he's kind of like meandering. And I'm like, oh dear. And it's like, so anyway, so I'm talking and he's coming, and he, boom, sits right down next to me out of the entire park and asks me his questions. I gave him the answers, and I thought, of course, of course. And I said, where did you come from? And it was on the other side of town, you know.
And he just felt like going up for a ride and coming and talking to you
Gee,
that
that
day.
day, yes. So I started realizing at that point in my life that um, if you're going to be of help to people, then you might as well make it official.
I think so. I think I finally drew the line when I started going to parties and people would ask me if I brought my tarot deck, so I'd start forgetting it on purpose.
So you wouldn't be doing all the free readings.
Yeah, well, and actually almost always, I was lucky in that I was around people that actually valued what I had to say anyway. And so there would be people who would pay me anyway.
Oh, that's
And
nice.
that was really nice, and that's really unusual human behavior. So, but and almost every time someone would always take me aside and say, what you're doing here, because what I do isn't entertainment. I mean, officially, legally, it has to be labeled that way. But what I try to do is actually help people get to whatever the next step is. It's not just a what's going to happen, it's a what's most likely to happen. And here's what you can do about it to try to get the outcome you want.
Yeah, not only that, but I look at it from also the perspective of my passion is to help people, to re-empower people that have lost their power, or maybe they've never had felt like they had any power.
Yeah.
It is for me such a rewarding experience to see someone to stand in their own power and take charge of their life and move forward. I absolutely love that.
That's pretty much what I want to do with my life.
Yeah.
So,
Ditto.
yeah. I know there's a thing on Facebook, and I can't remember how to paraphrase it, but it was someone had posted in a therapist's office for their patients going through depression about okay, so you're stuck in a jungle, and that's April in the background, by the way, folks. So you're the one stuck in you're the stuck in the jungle, going, hand me a stick, just get me out of here, just give me a stick so I can get myself out. All I'm doing is handing out the sticks, and this is my life's work, is I just hand out sticks. That is what I'm here for.
Yeah, I love that. I saw that post that you had put up. I think that's absolutely marvelous. Give them a stick, give them a shovel, give them whatever they need, whatever people need. And sometimes all it is just a validation that what their intuition is telling them and what their guides are trying to get through, knock, knock, knock on their head, is a reality. And that's really all a lot of people all that they really need to hear,
Yeah.
Just a little confirmation, a little validation.
Yeah, or at least a little unwinding of conventional reality. There's a lot of things that people are told is right or wrong that has nothing to do with what actually is right or wrong. And they and it becomes a wound for them, and then they bring that into the readings.
Absolutely.
And sometimes it's a matter of untangling those judgments to free them up to do what they actually need to do to feel like they have a functional life.
Oh, absolutely. And there are many ways of unraveling those wounds and helping people get to where they go, which leads us into a whole other topic. So.
Yes, it does. And
I'm trying to stay on track.
Yeah. So I think we can forgive a little bit of wandering, but it's especially since this is the one where we're introducing ourselves to our viewers and helping them get to know us. I think talking a little bit about our philosophies and how we got there is good.
Yeah, I went through 10 years of working with a healing modality which is called voice activated integration. We didn't name it that until probably 2005, I think it was. We used to just call it the process because it made sense. This is a process. Life is a process of unfolding, of an evolution for everybody's soul. In any case, I spent 10 years of doing this work, learning how to do it, and it is somatic. So that it has to do with how people carry their wounds within their body, and they're not even aware that they do. And if you tap into that, the wound will speak.
Interesting.
And if you can actually carry on a dialogue as if there was a third entity or 40, if you're Sybil, sitting there. And once the body realizes that it's actually being heard, then it's able to release. You no longer need this to help me survive. And so you let it go. And when you let it go, more of your authentic power comes back into your body.
So have you ever heard about Rosin Therapy? Because it does something very similar.
No, I know that there's
a lot of somatic therapies.
There's a lot of different ones out there. This is just the one that I happen to tap into. But I know that there's a lot of shamanic soul reclaiming that goes on that is very similar as well. So there's more than one way to get there, definitely. Okay.
All right, and also since we're introducing ourselves a little bit, maybe, and since you mentioned modalities, we should probably talk a little bit about what other modalities we practice.
Yes.
So I practice witchcraft unapologetically and with a great deal of cheerfulness, sometimes glee. I'm studying hoodoo right now. I did do the Wicca initiation thing. I was elevated to my third in Shadow Moon tradition, which can be verified with Lisa McSherry, who runs the Jaguar Moon Coven out in Seattle area.
Oh, that sounds lovely.
Yeah, she's really cool. She actually wrote the Virtual Pagan and Cyber Covening several years ago. Mm-hmm. So I was part of the coven that she was writing about when she did that. At least one of them. It was a long time ago. I'm older than I look. So
she's only 21. So.
Yeah, I've got the bottle of hooch right here too, because And so most of my interest is actually in ceremonial magic and Western occultism, and I'm a little bit of a mad scientist in that I'm always looking for the things that work. And Absolutely. So that also means I spend a lot of time with things that don't work. And I'm also a Western herbalist. I'm hoping eventually to get my studies done with the Loney Herbal Center out in Berkeley. Since I got dragged out here, I want to go there. Because sometimes I will admit that I really like plants much better than I like people. But I will point you to the nice plants, usually. If I like you.
And if they like you too.
Yes, that matters more.
Yeah. I've been a solitary practitioner. I don't do coven. I find that for myself, there's too much politicking and everybody jockling or jostling for position a lot of times, not always. But I prefer, what is the old adage that, if you want something done, get up and do it yourself. And so I have been a very go-to kind of person. So I am also a witch. I am have an eclectic background of different gods and goddesses from each and every pantheon. I work with the angels as well as work with the fae. So, am I certified in any of these? No, I'm not. But the gods and goddesses that I work with are very benevolent, loving, and very powerful. So I enjoy working with all of them. And I'm always open to working with new ones too, because you just never know when you're going to need somebody special. Um, Along with that, I think, I've also taken a hoodoo and root work class, which led me to fall in love with plants. I was in love with them before. I just didn't know all of their medicinal purposes. And I really enjoy working with different herbs and essential oils. And I create my own line of product that I'm carrying through the Mystic Dream right now. They're being ever so gracious. And there's a few mists and a few oils that I've used that I've brought for my reading clients, and then now we're selling them in the store. So one thing leads to another. That's true. If you have a passion for something, it just increases and increases. So
Yeah, I will say I've kind of retired from the tradition thing myself, and something I started doing in place of that is creating spaces for people that don't want to be involved in a tradition but just want the fellowship.
mm-hmm.
So I've started running we've renamed it a few times, but it's the Emperor Norton Bay Bridge San Francisco Pagan Society, which you can
Is that
find
a
on
short version?
meetup.com. We just usually call it the Emperor Norton group, but that can get a little confusing for other Emperor Norton groups that are still existing in the city.
Okay.
And that would be very much the San Francisco city spirit. And I'm very interested in working with human created spirits, which is city spirits, and structural things and things that come out of urban design. So that's also a big thing that I'm working with right now and experimenting with, and finding people to kind of help me play with the concepts and find out what works and doesn't.
That sounds fascinating.
It is. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It also gives me an excuse to go climb places that say keep out. I don't endorse this.
Well, I think we all have a little bit of that, where you look at the sign and you're like, nah, it didn't mean for me. I'm just going to go over here anyway. So
yeah, I like to defy the authority of the velvet rope.
There you go.
Yes.
The velvet rope. I'm more a chain link fence girl myself. I'll swing a leg over any time and get over that fence.
Yeah, I've ripped enough pants in my day.
So, well, I think that concludes most everything. I mean, it's not everything. We want to leave a little something for next time. So.
Yes. So tune in next week, and we will be talking about what we think divination is, which will probably take a while and conflict a few times.
I think that's great. I think that's great. Thank you.
Thank you for watching. And you can book either one of us at the Mystic Dream. Just go to themysticdream.com or call in.
You can call and make an appointment with either Diana or myself, Christine, at 925-933-2342, which is the Mystic Dream in Walnut Creek, California.
Yeah, so call between 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, please, to make an appointment. We look forward to
You can book an appointment with Christine, Diana, or any of the other members of the Mystic Dream Psychic Guild by logging on and making an appointment at themysticdream.com.